Kaftareo should have its bulbs, Locheo and its flowers. So since its Kaftareo is plural, so the minimal of plural is 2. Locheo or flowers, the minimal is 2. So here we have in the central, we speak about the Rambam describes the 4 goblets, 2 of the bulbs, and 2 flowers. And then the Oiter Shlishi is the 3rd flower, and the Samach Yerecha Shamaneva was near the base of the Menorah, Shnema Ad Yerecha Ad Bircham. It should be by the base with this flower, and that is the description of the center of the Menorah. Shleishre Raglayim Hoylon, it had 3 feet, and we turn the page.
What does it mean by flowers?
She's going to describe how the flower looks.
Oh, sorry.
And then that's one description from one pasuk, and then the Rambam continues the next page. There are 3 other bulbs in the Menorah. What was their purpose? From the 3 bulbs, from each bulb 2 arms came out. 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. So now we have additional 3 bulbs that are in the center. And its purpose is, from these bulbs, the arms come out, they extend. Now, how many decorations were on each of the arms? Each branch, each branch, it had 3 goblets, kaftail, and a bulb, a ferch, and a flower. How come and all of them were decorated as resembled like almonds, basiyos, when they were made. So let's look at the diagram, and you see this is taken from a diagram that the Rambam himself had drawn, and we see the top of the menorah has the lamps in which the oil is poured into, and we have in the description we have the wicks sticking out. And the wick should be facing towards the center. And then we have the central one that is facing forward. So now the Rambam continues, and he now makes a sum. Gimel, paragraph 3, page 57. Nimtzas. So what's our conclusion? When we make the total, Kol Hagvim, Shnayim ve'esrim. All of the goblets are 22. Aplochim, and the flowers, a tisha, are 9. Akaftoirim, and the bulbs, are Achad Asaf, are 11. The Kulam Akim Zeh, all of them are essential to the menorah, and if any one of them are missing, so then I feel a Chasar Echad Min Shneim Aboim, even if one of the 42 decorations are missing, then Ma'akris Kulam makes the entire Menorah disqualified from being used in the Beis hamikdash. So here we have all these numbers, they have a special significance, and we have different aspects of what the Menorah accomplished. One we're going to concentrate now is going to be on the Torah aspect that the Menorah brings in to the world. So Ne'am Mitzvah, Torah Oil. Mitzvah is like a candle, and the Torah is the light. Therefore, we have the Menorah that brought the shine of Torah to everyone of Klal Yisrael. So we have the 7 branches of the Menorah. We have the center. We have the arms coming on both sides, 6 arms. So they correspond to the center would be Torah Shviksav, the written Torah. Then we have, how many are the Mishnah? How many do we have of the orders of the laws of the Torah that was first recorded? So we have Shisha Sidra Mishnah, we have the 6 orders of Mishnah. So here we have the Menorah representing the entire Torah, the Torah Shviksav, the written Torah, Torah Shebal Peh, the oral law, because the Mishnah that incorporates all of the oral law. Then we have the Medrash tells us about the menorah itself, how it represents different aspects of the Jewish people. So the base of the menorah, that corresponds to the Nasi, the prince of the Sanhedrin. The center shaft, that corresponds to the Av Bezdin. In the Sanhedrin, there was the leader of the Sanhedrin. He was called the Av. He was the leader of the Sanhedrin. We're speaking about the Sanhedrin of the 71 members. Then we have the goblets. They are the sages. The bowls, they are the students. The plachim and the flowers, they are the children. So here we have all the Klal Yisrael are all represented in the menorah itself. Then we have the different numbers of the menorah, of the different decorations, how they correspond to Tov as well. So I have here a very interesting handout. And they are, pass it around. We have the 5 chumashim. Each chumash begins with a pasuk. If we look at the number of words in each pasuk, so we have the Bereshis, that has 7 words. Those correspond to the 7 arms of the menorah. The menorah itself had the seven lamps. Then we have Shemais, has 11 words. 11 corresponds to the bowls. Then I have Vayikra. Vayikra is 9. That corresponds to the children. Those are the flowers. It's interesting that the tradition is when children start the first pasuk, that when they start learning Chumash, the first pasuk that they learn is Vayikra, speaking about the children who are pure. Vayikra speaks about purity, so it's only fit that the ones who are pure will begin their learning of Torah with the book that deals with purity. Then we have Bamidbar, has 17 words. And the menorah itself was 18 handbreadths. But there are 2 opinions of the lamps in which the oil and wicks were placed. Were they removable or were they stationary in a part of the menorah itself? According to the Rambam, they are stationary. According to other opinions, they were a tefach, they were a handbreadth, and therefore, if we're going to speak about the menorah itself was 17, plus the lamps in which the oil was placed, which was in addition to the menorah. So according to the Rambam, the menorah itself the lamps were not removable. They were hammered down from one piece together with the rest of the menorah. It's also that's number 18. But I'm just looking at the number 17. I think that would correspond to the ones who say that the menorah was 17 and the lamps were in addition. Then we have the Dvarim has 22 words in the first pasuk. So here we see that all of the details of the menorah are a part of Chumash. Each pasuk of the Chamisha Chumsha Teva correspond to one of the parts of the menorah. Now, all addition, the Rambam tells us how many are there altogether. The Rambam adds it up for us, and he gave us the number. What was the number? What number did he give us? We had 11 and 22 and 9. So how much does that add up to? This would be paragraph 3, he tells us. Paragraph
42.
3. 42. Okay. So what's the number 42? Does anyone have any, when you say the number 42, does that mean anything? So I'm sure you had in Parsha, we're speaking about the Masais, all the different stops that the Jewish people made from the going out of Mitzrayim until they came to Eretz Yisrael, were 42 stops. And how were they illuminated? They were illuminated by the menorah. The menorah brought light, godly light into the world. So here we have the number 42 corresponding to lighting up the world wherever one goes, The light of the menorah, the light of Torah is going to light up their path. Then, is there anything else with 42? We have the Shema Yisrael, we have from V'yohavta, until Visharecha, without the pasuk of Shema Yisrael, are 42 words. These 42 words correspond to Shema. The V'yohavta is to elevate the person to Kabbalah's oil, to accept upon oneself the yoke of Hashem, to follow Hashem's Torah and mitzvahs. So here we have the number 42 in Shema, in the V'yohavta, having the one takes upon themselves that they're going to follow Shulchan Aruch, follow the Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh. And that also is V'yohavta, to do it with love. So here we have the number 42, connected V'yohavta to love Hashem. So when we're going to be doing the Menorah, which is Torah, that itself is going to be done out of love. Then there's another passage that is also connected with the number 42. One of Hashem's names corresponds to the number 42. We have Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is number, everyone knows about, number 26, right? Then we have the different computations. When you spell out Yud Kei Vav Kei, it has different additional numbers. It adds up to 72, 63, 45, 52, where you spell out Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yud Vav Dalet, Kei is either Hey Aleph, Vav is either Vav Vav or Vav Aleph, according to the different combinations that we have. Then we have also the chain of Mav, Mem Beis, number 42. What is the significance of Shem Mem Beis? That is connected to the V'yohavta. So we have a Maimon of the Alter Rebbe. It's found in the Siddur that deals with Kriya Shema. We have in the Siddur, we have different Maimonim that correspond to different parts of davening, how it's explained according to the Siddhis. So when it comes to the V'yohavta, Alter Rebbe explains that it's connected to Shem Ma, name that is the significance of the Hashem's name, with corresponding to number 42, and this is a name of elevation. Now we have this as part of our davening. It actually is the Shem Ma is in this tefillah. In this Ana B'Koyach is a Kabbalistic prayer. The author is Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, one of the Tanoim, one of the sages of the Mishnah. He was in Kabul, he was a Kabbalist, and he also he shared with us by saying this prayer, it's the number 42, and this is the name of elevation, that our service to Hashem is elevated through this prayer. And it reads, Ana, it has, each line has 6 words, and there are 7 lines. 6 times 7 is 42. So each word corresponds to, as a part of Shem Hashem. And we find that this prayer is said a number of times when we do want to be elevated. We want to elevate our service. So when is this prayer said? We say at the beginning of the day. When else is it said? On a B'Koyach is said, not for Mincha, but this is said only for Shachris, and then we say it before we go to sleep, as the nusach of our form of davening that the Rebbe instituted is on a B'Koyach is said in Kriya Shema Lamita, the prayer before we retire. Then it's also said another time, any other time? Friday night before the Chadodi. So this is all a prayer of elevation. Before we say the Chadodi, we say Ana B'Koyach in order to elevate the service that we have done all week, which is a weekday service. How do we elevate it and make it into a Shabbos service? Again, if those who have learned Chassidus, I'm sure leaving it for your Chassidus class, where you have how the world functions during the weekday, and then the elevation that the world gets on Shabbos day. So how do we make transformation from all of the works that we have done during the week to make that into the level of Shabbos? That is done by this prayer on Overkayach. So number 42, that's in the Menorah, also corresponds to all of this that is accomplished by the Shem Hashem, the number 42. So here we have the Menorah as it is, illuminates the world with Torah. And that is why the Gemara says, whoever is scrupulous, the Zohar says, whoever does with happiness and enthusiasm the lighting of the Shabbos candles and Yom Tif, that corresponds to the Menorah. And therefore, the Gemara tells us in Shabbos, whoever is scrupulous about the lighting of the candles for Shabbos, and they put a lot of enthusiasm into it, so then their children will be Torah scholars. And if they have girls, their son-in-laws will be Torah scholars. And also will have an effect on the husband as well. We have in Tanakh, we have this very famous prophetess, Devorah. And it says that Devorah was married, her husband was called Lapidus. Actually, his name was Baruch ben Avinayam, but he was called Lapidus. Why? Because she made the wicks, and he brought them to the Mishkan.
She made them?
She made the wicks. She's the one who made them. She's the one who took the material and made wicks, and she formed them. And then she told her husband to bring them to Shiloh, the Kohanim, that they're going to be using these wicks for the Menorah. And the fact that he delivered these wicks, and they were used for the Menorah, and she did it with all her heart and everything else that went into it, making wicks for the Menorah. So then he became a Torah scholar. So it was very effective on him. So this is one aspect of the Menorah where it corresponds to the Torah. Then we have another aspect of the Menorah as it corresponds to the luminaries in the heavens. So we have the seven arms of the Menorah. They correspond to the seven Koichei Leches. We call them planets. So there are 7 planets that are mentioned in the Talmud, and the lighting of the Menorah would illuminate, to bring more light to the luminaries in the sky. They also have an effect on the world, how the world functions according to this, to the different, how they all have an effect. Again, science is finding out how everything is important. If anything would be moved away from its position, the whole world would not be able to function as it does today. So what gave light to the luminaries? This is by the lighting of the Menorah. And therefore we have the number 9. 9 corresponds to the 9 utterances when Hashem created the world. Bereshis is the first one that was all-inclusive. And then there were 10 utterances which Hashem created the world. So the 9 are the ones that corresponds. The 9 flowers, they correspond to the 9 utterances. So each time the menorah was lit, it gave stability, it gave strength to the creation of the world, which were created in 9 utterances. We have the number 11. Those according to those who've been learning Chassidus have the number 10 or the 10 spheres. And what is 11? 11 is Kesef, the source of all the spheres. So by lighting the menorah, not only did the 10 spheres become illuminated, but also the source of the spheres also became illuminated. Number 22, those were the goblets. 22, they correspond both for the Torah and for the utterances. 22, when we say number 22, does it mean anything to anyone? 22 letters in the Aleph base. 22 letters in the Aleph base, which correspond to all the teachings of the Torah, or we use the 22 letters of the Aleph base for Torah. We also have the 22 letters used for the creation of the world. So when the menorah was lit, it lit up the world, it lit up the Torah world, it lit up all the people who are learning Torah. And then we have another aspect, I'm sure that this is what you've been taught, is when it came, Aaron is the one who lit the menorah, and the Jewish people were divided into 7 categories of how they serve Hashem. One who serve Hashem out of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Yisai, each one according to, with love to Hashem, with awe of Hashem. So when the menorah was lit by Aaron HaKohen, all of these, all their emotional part of their lives also became illuminated, and they started to shine. Now, how does it fit in with us? It's an interesting medrash. And the medrash says, we say in our davening, Haluk al Keichvei, all the stars that light praise Hashem. So the medrash says that every person has his star. That star makes a difference in the whole universe. And therefore, according to the conduct of the person, that is how their star shines. So this is something that we have a direct influence on the world, whether we realize it or not. So this, if anyone wants to look up the medrash, it's a medrash Tehillim on, you see how Haluk al Keichvei, it's one of the, I think it's Kuf, which one is it? Kuf Kafes, which one? I have to see which it is.
In Tehillim?
Yeah, it's in our davening. We have the, it's chapter 148, sentence 3. Alu, Shemesh v'Yavech, they praise him, the sun and the moon, and Alu Kokech, and they praise him, all of the shining stars. The Medrash says, we are shining, we determine the shining stars. So this is something also by lighting the Shabbos candles. This is also connected to the menorah. The menorah also has the light of Mashiach. So this especially, it expresses itself when it comes to Hanukkah. Then we also have Matem Shamrim Neves Shabbos. If you observe the lights of Shabbos, Ani Marolachem Neves Sion, you will merit to see the lights of Sion. And Mother Medrash says that you will be Zeicha to be Makabel Mashiach. So now let's get back to the Rambam. So good.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, so the Rambam speaks about all these details. This is paragraph 4 on page 57. When do you need all of these decorations and all of these details? If one of them is missing, you don't have the whole menorah, you cannot light up a menorah. Shasua Zav, it was made out of gold. Well, we have learned in chapter 1 that the menorah may be made of any other metal, but if it's made of any other metal, you do not make these decorations. Then there's also another detail. So if it's made of gold, it must have all these details. If it's missing, then it's invalid. Then additional, if it is of gold, the whole has to be menorah has to be an exact weight. And the colors on the side, and how much is a kikav, a talent. It makes it to be about 153 pounds. Together in Menorah, because the Rambam counts also the lamps in which the oil and wicks were placed is also as a part of the menorah itself. It's not in addition to the menorah; it is the menorah. So therefore, it has to be 1 talent exactly. It was all hammered out from one solid piece. So that was also something that was unique in making a menorah and having all these details without welding, without doing anything. It had to be one piece of gold that you hammered out until you fashioned to the menorah. That's beautiful as is. I'm sure you looked at Russian about this, how it was made actually, but we'll leave that for another time. And then when it's made out of any other metal, and you're not precise about the weight. If it was hollow, sheva, it's also kosher. It cannot be so when it came to the menorah of gold. Number hay, page 59. You can never make it out of recyclable metal, of broken pieces of metal, just to reform them again. Whether it was made of gold, whether it was made of other metals, it had to be new metal that was going to be used specifically for the menorah, not to have recycled metal.
Where would they get it from?
Again, gold. But once they had the gold, they had a solid mass of gold. And this is the donation that the Jewish people gave.
Wow.
And someone who merited, so you had to, according to how you gave it, that's where your donation was used. So those who merited had the gold that they gave for the Aron, the Kerubim, for the Menorah, for the Shulchan, for the Mizbeach. So each one, according to their donation, that's how it was used. And this was one of Bezalel's specialty, was he was able to look at a donation and know where it's coming from and know where it belongs. And the same is also Hashgacha Pratis, that was also when it came to the Beis hamikdash. Anyone who donated to the Beis hamikdash also, it went to wherever it was fit to be. Above, number 6, Melkachayim, the tweezers to straighten the wicks, machtois, and the ash scoops that you would clean the menorah. Each time before you would light put in the new wicks, the new oil, you would clean out the old wicks, the old ash, klei hashemen, also the vessels in which the oil was contained. That is not included in the talent, that is separate. Said it should be made of pure gold. And then it describes what is made of pure gold. And then it says a second phrase, Malkachem, and the tweezers, Machdesel, and the scoops. So should also be made of gold, since it separates into two different phrases. So therefore, each one is made separately. It's not included in the talent. The Nemo never says of Torah, since it does not say about the lamps in which the oil and wicks were kept. It doesn't say it should be made of pure gold. It's included in the menorah. Why is it not said separately? They were there permanently. They were fixed to the menorah. They're included in the kiko, in the talent. Yes. What? Lamps. Lamps is. That's why I gave the definition. That place where the oil and wicks were placed, he defines it as lamps. It's a part of the menorah.
Yeah, it says a flower on there. For this one, for the O,
yeah,
it says a flower.
Doesn't say lamps.
Oh no, so that's the whoever.
It also says flower for here, for
So that's a
C.
flower, and we don't see any lamps on this
Down here.
menorah.
Yeah, that's why I'm
That's
confused.
it was omitted.
Oh.
It was omitted. We don't
But
have
what
it.
does it mean by a flower?
So it's soon good to see. We're getting to it.
okay.
We're getting to it.
I'm not seeing like the flower.
Okay, we're getting to it. Okay, so now the Rambam continues in number 7,
Yeah.
page 61. Shivas Knei HaMenorah, the 7 arms of the menorah, the 7 branches of the menorah, they also are invalidate if one is missing. So that has to be there. Shivas Knei, and also the 7 lamps in which the oil and wicks are kept. So what happens if you only have 6? One was broken off. Can you light the menorah with 6? The answer is no. It's either 7 or nothing. So again, what would have to be done if you can't, if the menorah is not valid, you would have to form a menorah out of other materials as a substitute till you're able to make the proper one. So as long as it was made out of metal, it was accepted. That's what happened when the Maccabees came to the Beis hamikdash on Hanukkah. They could not use the original menorah; that was not available to them. So they had to fashion a menorah. At that time, they made a menorah out of metal that they were able to use for the lighting of the menorah. Whether it was of gold, so it's made of any other metal, because we said when it came to decorations, it was only of gold. It tells you that to have 7 arms, that is a necessity. And also all the lamps are permanently affixed. They are a part of the menorah itself. Now the Rambam tells us, when it was lit, in what direction did the fire burn? So, Shisha Neves Hakvui B'Shisha Sheish Zakanim Ayetzim Menorah. The 6 lamps that were in the 6 arms, branches of the Menorah, Kulam Pneyan B'Davan Ksoi Shal Pnei HaMenorah. They were facing the center. So you had the center of the menorah, and its wick was facing towards Kodesh HaKadoshim, towards the Holy of Holies, because the menorah was standing from north to south, and therefore it was facing it wasn't going along the wall, so the Beis hamikdash itself was going from east to west. Kodesh HaKadoshim, Holy of Holies, was in the west. Now, when you put the menorah in the Heichal, when you put it in the Kodesh, it could have been standing in 2 directions. It could be standing along the wall, going from east to west, or it could be going, facing to the center from north to south. In the Gemara, there are 2 opinions. The Rambam paskins that was going from north to south. Therefore, when we're speaking about the center wick, where was it facing? It was facing straight towards Kodesh HaKadoshim, towards Holy of Holies. How about the other wicks? So the ones in the north were facing towards the south because they're facing towards the center. So the wicks that were placed in the menorah were facing towards the center. So the ones on the north were facing south, the ones on the south were facing north, all of them going towards the center, which again, according to what we explained, was that the center is Teresh Biksav. Center is Hamisha Chum Shetera. The center is the written Torah. And where is the oral law coming? It's facing towards the center. That is where it receives all of the directions. So that's what he says, that and the center one, was facing the Holy of Holies. It's called the Western candle. Why is it the Western lamp? Why is it the Western one? Because it was facing towards the west, which is Kodesh HaKadoshim. Even though they were all facing towards west, because the menorah was facing towards west. So why is that called the Western lamp? Because the wick was facing towards the west, the others were going, the south was going towards north, and the north was going towards the south, towards the center of the menorah. Next page. Now we're going to get the descriptions. Paragraph 9. Agavim, the goblets, Daimin Lekaisis Alexandria. They resemble Alexandrian chalices. What is special about the Alexandrian ones? Shepiyam Rachov. Their openings are wide, Shulei Kotov, and their bases are narrow. So it's like you have those cups that have a stem. You have those. What do you call them? Not wine. What do they use for? The ones that are.
Oh, a martini?
It's a martini?
Yeah.
Cocktail glasses.
Oh, cocktail. Okay, so that's the way it was. And the Rambam's diagram, they are upside down. So there is a special significance that the Rebbe elaborates on it, and it is a cup could be used for 2 purposes, either to store, or you put it from the pitcher into the cup, and from the cup you drink. is meant to be emptied out. It's not a storage. The same as also the Torah that we get. It's not a storage for ourselves, but we share it with everyone else. Therefore, this was the lesson that the Menorah gave us, that the lights that were received from above, it was not stored in the Beis hamikdash, but it was spread to the whole world. And that is why it says that when Shlomo HaMelech made the Beis hamikdash, he was instructed to make the windows inside were narrow and it widened toward the outside, which purpose shows that the light of the Beis hamikdash was not meant to take in light, but rather to give out the light. So that is why the cups, the goblets were in that shape. Then hakaftorim. What about the bulbs? Min tapuchim chaysim. They are like the apples that come from Crete, and they were resembling like shehem abuchim ma'at kebetz shnei l'shei kadim. It is oblong, and the two ends are rounded. So that is how the bulbs looked. So they weren't completely round, circular, but they were rather elongated. Let's see, do we see that in our diagram? No, we don't see it. We don't see the diagram.
Wait, what? So there's a discrepancy between
No, just
this
saying
one
that
and
this
another
is
one?
No, we're just looking at the picture. It's not done very accurate as the Rambam describes it.
But wait, what was the
this picture was
17
taken
and
from
18?
the Rambam's. This picture, I think, was taken from the Rambam's diagram, and therefore they tried to keep it as close as to the diagram, rather than to his description that he says in the text.
Why?
Because if they had these diagrams, they'd like to use the Rambam. This is the Rambam, and they have his
No, I
diagram.
mean, but why isn't it the same then?
That
Oh.
I don't know.
But wait, what were you saying about
Maybe
the
something got
17 and the 18? What was the
So, according to the Rambam, since the lamp in which the oil was placed was a part of the menorah itself, that was a handbreadth, so that's why you have 18 handbreadths.
counting the
Counting that,
Menorah?
that's correct. But if you take it off, and you only had 17, and then you would add that 18. But according to the Rambam, the menorah was 18 to begin with because it did not come in sections. Everything was attached.
Okay.
I'm just trying to put it together with a pasuk. That was my.
No, that's good.
I didn't see anyone say that. That was my own thought.
Sure, it's accurate.
So now we come to the flowers. What do the flowers look like? They look like the flowers of a column. Looks like a bowl. And the edges are bent outward like a flower. So that would be the description of the flowers. It's bow-like with and this is the decoration that they would use on columns at that time. So people were able to relate to it because that was the description that was used. That when they made these flower-like decorations on columns, they were bow-like with edges over, like because you have the flowers that turn outward. Now the Rambam tells us number 10, Yud, the height of the Menorah, Tefach, it was 18. And we say 18, that's high. 17 is tired, 18 is high. I guess 18 it is. Now the Rambam is going to tell us how they were situated on the menorah itself. For this, we have to actually look at the diagram so we can follow along. So we start off, he's going from bottom up. We have the, let me think. We have the diagram in front of us, so it's easier to follow. Bottom up. So we're going to now go with the base of the Menorah, the feet, We're going to be going upwards. We're going to get to the number 18 until we come to the top of the menorah. Line Baperach, we said that in the center arm, there were 1, 2, 3. There were 3 flowers in the center arm. So we have the feet with the flower, the first flower, the Shleisha Tvachim gives us 3. Then, Shnei Tvachim Cholak, 2 handbreadths was empty. Nothing was there, no decorations were there. So now we have someone keeping tabs. So we have, okay, so we have 3 and 2, so we're up to 5. Tevach Shabbai, Gevia, Kafta Leferach. Then the next handbreadth had in it 3 decorations. It had a goblet, it had a bowl, and a flower. So where are we up to now?
How many tefachim was that?
That's one tefach. All 3 of them were 1 tefach.
6, yeah.
Up to 6. But Chaim Chaluk, then 2 handbreadths were empty.
8.
Okay. Now let's turn the page. Now the tefach kafta. Now we have a bulb, which is 1 handbreadth, gives us 9. And then the Rambam tells us from this bulb, there are 2 branches that extend from this bulb. One going in one direction, one going in the other direction. And they went until reaching the height of the menorah. So these are the longest ones of the branches. These are the 2 longest ones. Then we have tefach cholok. 1 handbreadth was empty, give us space between the necks of the arms, the branches. So where are we up to? 10. Then we have a tefach kafter. We have a handbreadth which had in its bowl, and then 2 also shnei karim yatzim manner. There are 2 branches coming out. Echad halach, one going in one direction, one going in the other direction. And it itself also went until the height of the menorah. Then tefach cholok, a space of a tefach. So that's, how much is that? 11. Tefach kafter. Then we have the next one is the 3rd bulb. The 2 branches go out. One going in one direction, one going in the other direction. And then it goes to the height of the menorah. And then we have for Chaim Cholok, and now we have 2 handbreadths that are empty space. So how much do we have now?
13.
Okay. Now we have Mishtayla Shleisha Tvachim. I think it should be 15. You get to 15? We should be up to 15.
I'm lost. I don't know what we're counting. I'm
No,
sorry.
let's look again. He's
Wait,
telling
let's
you.
start again. So to the second bulb is 9.
He's going through. How do you get to 18?
I know. I
saying,
missed
so-
where we're.
Right now we're up to after we went to the 3 bulbs. So there was a bulb, then empty space, a bulb, empty space, bulb. And then we have 2 empty.
Does this space count as 1?
Yes,
Oh.
yes, they count. It just tells you that it's an empty space, but it counts as it does take up space, so it's a tefach. So did we reach the numbers?
I see. Okay.
We have the numbers.
So these are all 1, 2, right?
Yeah, but we only counted the center. We only counted the center arm. We're going through the center arm. You say that the bulbs are, there's an extension from the bulbs. It just tells you where the branches are coming out. But we're counting the space, so we have.
So if it's 13 in the middle,
Yeah.
then how many tefachim are the 3 goblets and the bulb and the flower?
So now it tells you that's going to be 3 handbreadths. And in them it's going to be 3, the goblets and the bulb and the flower. So.
Oh, so that's right. So it's 13 to the base. 13 to the base.
Okay, that's right. 13, another 3,
Oh,
right?
so
Okay, that's
okay,
it. So it's
yeah,
15,
fine.
right? We start to count from the base. No. So we go. Let's go again. The base is 3.
Oh, the base is 3.
The base is 3, right? The base is 3, and then that'll give us 15 because we just now counted 13. The base 3 is 15, and then another 3.
So we're at 15.
Until we have 15 with the base. Now we have another, the number tells us now we finished off the last 3, which is the remaining space that accounts for the 18 handrails. I think it's good, if on the diagram, you just put down a number as the Rambam is telling us. The base, put a 3 by the base.
Okay.
Then
2 by the space.
Then you tell you that you make it 2 space, make it 2.
Does the flower count as 1?
That's together.
Oh.
That's together.
Oh, okay.
Then you
I
have
see.
2,
It's 2. Okay.
add 2, then 1 for the goblet, bulb, and flower.
Yeah.
Then 2 empty. Are you writing it down? Then
Yeah.
1 where you have the goblet with the bulb, in which the arms come out. Then 1 empty. Then we have again the bulb, the arms come out.
Yeah.
Then empty.
That's
On
the
empty.
bulb arms come out is 1.
1, right? Then there's an empty space.
Yeah.
Then it comes again.
Okay.
1 that the arms come out. And then 2 empty. So that should give us, you're adding them all up.
1, 2.
Or is the math adding?
I'm at 13.
13. Yeah, it's at 13.
13, yes.
Plus the.
Did I write these numbers right?
3, 2.
There should be a 3.
Yeah, I wrote a 3 there.
You know 3? 1, 2,
These 3 are 1.
okay,
That, the
4,
goblet, and the bulb
5,
is 1 to come.
6,
Is that
7,
right?
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, plus 3. This is also 1. You counted this as well?
Yeah.
What's this thing?
Are these
These are 2.
3 things?
This is 2. This is 3.
This whole part is
Yes,
3?
that's correct. 2 together with the lamp.
Exactly.
Okay, are we okay? Mhm.
I need to know how much the last 3 goblets and bowl and
So
flower.
it says 3. Altogether it's 3. Altogether it's 3,
Altogether
right?
it's 3?
Yes, that should give us I just counted it up. It came out to 18 for me.
Really?
Yes. Okay, we'll try it at the end of class. We'll add it up.
Here.
Okay. Are we ready to continue? Number 11. Paragraph 11. Even ha'isa lifnei hamenorah. There was a stone in front of the menorah about sholish malos. It had 3 steps. Sholeh kohen made a made to the sandelis, and the kohen would clean the and clean and light the lavas. He would be standing higher up in order that he should be able to take out the wicks and take out the ash. He would place on this rock, also on one of the steps, the vessel for the oil, and the tweezers, and the scoops for the ashes, when he was cleaning and kindling it.
Wait, are you up top?
Number 11. Paragraph 11. Paragraph 11.
I want to go straight to the 10 scroll.
So I'll give you another copy. There one.
Oh, here.
Doesn't mind looking
Oh,
on
it's
the
the same in this one. Let me see. I have.
Oh, it's on the other side of the row.
Yeah.
Okay,
Got
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
mine left
So-
is out the row. Miracle.
So we have 11. So we had the rock that had 3 steps. The kohen would place the oil and the tools that he used to clean out the menorah, to light the menorah, and so that is the menorah. Now we go to the next vessel, which the Rambam counts as a part of the mission of the Beis hamikdash itself, and that is a shulchan. We have the table for the showbread. Its length was 12 handbreadths, and its width was 6 handbreadths. It was situated along the length of the Beis hamikdash, and its width was the width of the Beis hamikdash. In other words, it was going from east to west along the wall. The menorah is going from south to north, not going along the wall, but rather going towards the center. And the shulchan was going along the length of the wall. Also, all the other vessels, its length was along the length of the Beis hamikdash, and its width was along the width of the Beis hamikdash. With the exception was the oven. It too was going from north to south, south to north, and it was facing towards, not along the wall, but rather towards the center. Also, the lights of the Menorah, was going according to the width of the Beis hamikdash, going from north to south. So here we have the diagram. The Aron was going along from north to south. Shulchan is going along the wall. The menorah is going towards the center from north to south. The Mizbeach was square, so it stood between the Shulchan and the Menorah, between the table with the showbread and the Menorah. That would be. So let me just. So the Rambam is now going to describe how the Shulchan was set in order to have the showbreads on the table, where we have a diagram of the showbreads on the table on page 71. So that is our diagram with the special breads. And just to finish off our class, I guess it's time to finish. I'll just finish it off with, we have if you look at the arrangement, there were 6 loaves. They were not breads, but they were kosher l'Pesach all year round. They were about 7.5 pounds each. And there were, how many were there altogether? 2 arrangements. How much was in each arrangement? 6 in each arrangement. So altogether it was 12. And they correspond to the man, and to the heavenly food, the earthly food. And that is our chalas for Shabbos. Corresponds to the showbreads that were on the table.
But the showbreads were like matzah.
Yes, but we have challah. And
just so I know, it was
so the challah itself is shaped to give us the number 6 and 6. How do we get 6 and 6? Either you have different choices. What are some of the choices how you make challahs?
6 strands.
So when they braid the challah, they make it such that when it comes out of the oven, it comes out with 6 sections. You have to count to see if they've done it. If they've done an accurate challah that's been done. Not everyone knows that there's a special tradition why they're braided and why they have that way. Others make it in football shape.
or
It's
3
like
braids.
above, like above.
Oh.
2 bobs. Bob is 6. Bob is 6 is 12. Then there are the
No braid, no braids.
Someone just make it like a football. It's supposed to look like a bob. Then we have those who make a challah and they make these little bumps on this. Because those people who make challahs, they will make also it should be number 6. So it has a special significance that we try to get the 6 corresponding to the showbread that was in the Beis hamikdash and all the blessings that come with it. Okay, have a good evening.
I have a question.
Okay.
So the shulchan was always matzah. There's no chametz. What happened on Shavuos when they dropped bread?
Shavuos, they did.
Like, did they clean out the whole thing? They dropped
No. So they had 2 loaves that was specifically not placed on the altar, was distributed to the Kayanim, but it was brought together with a sacrifice that was brought on the Mizbeach, on the altar. And then that was when the 2 loaves were brought, then that was the beginning of all the new grain for the Beis hamikdash was used, that which came from the new crop. And they-
Everybody needs to.
No, only the Beis hamikdash provided 2 loaves for that korban. It was taken from the communal monies. Everyone gave a half a shekel. So half a shekel was used for all communal activities. So everyone had a share in all the communal activities, whether it was the daily sacrifice, it was the Musaf sacrifice for Rosh Chodesh and the Yontif, or it was the Shtei HaLechem, the 2 loaves, or the Omer. All of this, everyone had a share in it because it came from the half a shekel. See what a half a shekel could do?
So you didn't get the Beis hamikdash dirty. You didn't get the Beis hamikdash chametz.
No, but they had chametz all year round as well in the Beis hamikdash because the person who brought a korban toda, so
Yeah.
10 loaves were chametz, and the kohanim needed.
They left, they not.
They cleaned for Pesach. Yes, they did. They had the cleaning crew. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi Bear.
That was so interesting. Thank you, Rabbi.
Please have a wonderful week.
You guys go.
Someone know from the
Oh,
so,
nobody's
I think
on.
that red.
Yeah.
now